Welcome to this month's hour of dotFIT Nutrition Education. I'm Kat Bearfield, Vice President of Nutrition Services and Head Registered Dietitian. And today our founder and CEO, Neil Spruce, will be presenting on Playspan, which is essentially the foundational nutrition everyone needs to grow strong and stay strong. So if this is your first time, welcome to our educational webinar. We are recording, which means the recording will be posted to the website. If you've missed anything, if you want to download the slides, you'll be able to do that on the website as well. And then at the end, when Neil is done, we'll open it up. So anybody who wants to come on screen, ask a question, you're welcome to do that. If you'd rather drop your question in the Q&A box, I'll field those at the end as well. So once again, welcome to this month's presentation on Playspan. Neil? Go get it.
Let's go. This is a big one, very dear to me, obviously. This will be, as I like to call, the future of fitness. And just as a reminder, there we are on the left there. That's all your bragging rights about, why we have become sort of the authority in this whole space for professionals all the way around, like you and the pro teams you work with, college teams and everything else. But here's your library that we have done for this group here, all these things. And we've already talked about a lot of these things individually. We did Playspan back in last year, early last year. We did all the proteins, and we did the essential family packs back in September, which is basically Playspan, just packaged as family packs. So this is really going to put it all together for you, though. This is really the backdrop to everything. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because when we talk about this, this is the opportunity right now. We're in this perfect place in the world today. Sadly, because of COVID, it put us into this place where you are now the heroes of fitness and health. It's again, we've been trapped in this world of big pharma forever. People, once they start taking medications, they take them for the rest of their lives. Well, we can avoid all those things by just doing tiny, tiny things. And that's what Playspan is all about. How do we get our lifespan, our Playspan, equal to our lifespan? And well, that's going to take people like you to get people to know what they need to do to make that happen. And it's so ridiculously easy. That's why it drives me nuts. So I'm going to do a big backdrop to the whole thing. We'll do in the beginning, we'll talk about what the problem and solution is. Then we're going to just kind of put a whole little backdrop to the whole thing. And then, of course, we'll end with a summary of it all. But the bottom line is, with a very simple but authentic nutrition component added to what you're doing right now, of course, you guys are doing that, to our discipline of teaching people how to exercise and so forth, we are not just ready for the future of fitness, but we can also drive it. So Playspan, lifespan, tied to what right now, we are in the middle of a self-care movement. And I'll give you the definitions of those in a minute. So this is really my big sort of swan song, saving the world through fitness. I think I started saying that when I was 25 years old because it really saved me, took me out of that bad life and made a living as an athlete. So bottom line is saving the world through fitness. It's Playspan versus lifespan, because only us that are delivering a holistic solution have the power to get people's Playspan to equal their lifespan. So fitness should always be considered your healthcare versus sick care when it comes down to it. Because our job is to protect your health while you have it. Therefore, we can serve as that primary self-care lifetime resource for the world, for everyone in our community, to help people stay active and avoid the big pharma trap, which, as we all know, they pretty much run the country. That means they're running people's lives too. All right, so here we go. Let's just start from the beginning here. So whenever I get interviewed, whether it be a television show, radio show, or anything, they're going to always ask me this because I've been saying it for so long on a global stage. How do you plan, Neil, to save the world through fitness? Well, first of all, you got to identify the problem. What is it? The problem is really pretty simple. We all break too early, and then we have to rely on meds. And that puts us in a miserable position all the way around, and why healthcare is spiraled out of control all the way around. We break too early, and there's no excuse for that. And what's causing that? Common and unavoidable nutrient shortages. It's not you can't just accidentally get all the nutrients your body can use to build a stronger structure. I mean, that's just comical or very arrogant for anyone to even think that. But common and unavoidable nutrient shortage, they're silent. It's not like when you don't eat enough food, you can hear that. It's yelling at you. But these are silent. Your vitamin, minerals, and amino things that make up your body, they're not crawling. You need more vitamin D, you need more zinc, you need more magnesium. They're not. But they're depriving the body of its full structure and functional potential. And that perpetuates inactivity. That's why we stop moving, leading to a weaker body and mind throughout life. Thus, an early onset of illness, and we all know that, and or aging. In other words, early, avoidable breakdown in a life dependent on prescription drugs and a broken healthcare system, which is no longer considered healthcare. Almost everybody, it is known as sick care. We are what we eat, meaning we become what we missed. Because obviously every single part, our skin, hair, our nails, our bones, our heart, our livers, all of our organs, it all was made from things we consume. So we consume half of what our body can use. We get a half a structure. We become what we missed. All those things we missed that's what we become, and we break down. What's the solution? A daily flow of those body building materials to support the desire and ability to remain active. In other words, you're not going to be active in the first place if you don't have a strong structure. And you're only bringing in half, maybe 3/4 of what the body can use. And that's facts. We all know that. And we're going to get to all that in just a second. And that gives you the desire and ability to remain. That's the solution, a daily flow, okay? Forcing a paradigm shift in the world in establishing and maintaining health. All right, so bottom line is that maintaining nutrient recommendations, no one argues that, with caloric efficiency, you don't have to add any calories to it. In fact, you probably subtract from what you're doing now, can cause activity. In other words, now you'll be active, and subsequent fitness, making us better in every phase of life, every phase and aspect of life, through compounding positive health outcomes. In other words, if you don't have enough and you're breaking down early when you're a kid, you're always sick, you fracture, and when you start moving, well, okay, well, that's just going to compound the downside. But by being strong from the beginning, from the prenatal all the way on, there's compounding positive health outcomes, thus the potential for us to be independent our entire lives, which in turn would make the world a better place for everyone. And it needs to be personalized to fit the person. And that's where we all come in, or they won't do it. So the person can carry on their own. And that's what we come down to. So the new mentality, simple intuitive fitness, would be viewed as a person's primary self-care solution, so they can take care of themselves, to avoid as much as possible our current broken healthcare system, which is sick care. So grow strong and stay strong. So there's everything in a nutshell. Now let's get into it. All right, Playspan, lifespan, and self-care. So here's the definitions. And the overriding thought for everybody right now, if you're going to write something down, every day of life is only as good as your recovery from the last. Describe that a little more. Lifespan, well, that's pretty easy. And this will blow your mind, by the way, how long you live. Just so you guys know, Americans have the shortest lifespans in the world among peer nations. That's 50 nations that are developed like ours. We have the shortest lifespan and the highest healthcare cost per person, which is $14,000 per year, and the shortest lifespans and the shortest health spans. Japan has the highest lifespan and the shortest healthcare costs. Let me figure that one. And on the least healthcare costs. Well, let me figure that one out. And by the way, that's dollar for dollar. So it's not yen versus, this is dollar for dollar, every equal. It's pretty crazy. It just tells you what's really, really killing us. Health span. Is this how long? Now, I didn't coin this phrase. This phrase was coined back in the 70s by the medical establishment. It's how long you're healthy, functional, and disease-free period of life, relatively independent. In other words, you're not necessarily independent, but relatively independent. Now, again, you could be on drugs at this time still, depending on a certain drug, and fall into this category. But that's the health span, okay? They did that because people were living longer, but their health was not living longer. Playspan I coined many, many years ago. I coined it how long they're physically and mentally able to do the activities important to you, which is completely different than this. And we'll look at the actual numbers around these. And by the way, all these links are live. Click on them, you'll go right to the official definitions of them all. The Playspan is something that I did coin to talk about how long people are physically and mentally able to do exactly what they were doing when they were 20s or 30s, or even younger. Maybe you don't do it as well when you turn to 100, but you're still doing it. And then there's self-care. This is an actual definition. This is what's going on today. Decision-making process that empowers individuals and families, like the people you work with, to look after their own health efficiently and conveniently in collaboration with you, a health or fitness professional, as needed. The goal is to stay structurally and functionally active to help avoid, on their own, to help avoid the current broken healthcare or sick care system that includes big pharma. So there's your definition on that. So that's what we're going to tie all together here. And again, if you want any proof that the self-care movement's underway, just look at this study that came out last year from Mayo Clinic. 83% of people now who start a diet are motivated for health reasons. That's 5 times more than any. This is all than the pre-COVID era. The pre-COVID era was completely different. People they were doing start a diet for cosmetic reasons. Now improving health is more important than improving physical appearance. And that all started from that. So the self-care movement really got on. They're looking for long-lasting solutions. So they're looking for you. All right. And this is a really good positive change. And we have the magic to make this thing happen all the way around. All right. So the emerging attitude shift is rooted in the fact that people finally get it. Oh, that's right. Nutrition created us, not medicine. Yeah. We didn't inject a human being with medicine, a baby grows, and it comes out, and you keep medicine. No, nutrition creates the human, thus the human health, not medicine. Medicine is after the fact, treating something that's broken. So health is the domain of nutrition. And then, of course, activity, because good nutrition, we're going to stay active. And when you're active, it opens up your body to more nutrition. You build a stronger structure that'll last longer. And the new awarenesses and the danger of pre-existing conditions, which we all found out about that, being overweight, just underfed as far as nutrition goes, along with a growing distrust in big pharma, is driving the desire for people to take care of themselves, self-care. They want to get away from that, this screwed up system we have today. So self-help care is the future. No one argues that. Google, you'll see us at the top all the time. And we're it to help people keep doing what they love. Because I can promise you this, people would much rather go see you in the gym than a hospital and a doctor. They'll take a gym over a hospital all day long. They much rather take their little pill box and put a vitamin mineral in it and maybe an omega, okay? Versus this whole giant pill box full of meds. Promise you. Here's that number that's going to blow your minds if you don't already know it. 75% of all adults, that's every person in the United States, and these links are all live, in the United States, over the age of 18 and over, is on prescription medication daily or on a regular basis. 75%. How did we get here? And don't forget, when you start taking a drug, then you got to take another drug for the side effect of that drug. It's crazy. So I guarantee they'd rather take supplements than that. So anyway, fitness should be always looked at as the primary preventative side of healthcare through self-care. So that's the paradigm shift that's underway. The pendulum has just gone too far. People are waking up to what's happened and how they got into this little screwed up world, healthcare world we have today. So protection before cure approach is on the way right now. It's underway. And here's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's better and easier to stop something from happening in the first place than to repair the damage after it's happened. So we write that down. The ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I'm sure you heard that a million times. Benjamin Franklin actually said that in the 18th century. All right. But it's better and easier to stop something from happening in the first place than to repair the damage after it has happened. So fitness is healthcare versus sick care. Our job is to keep people's health while they have it. All right. So what are those actions that we have? Creating this active lifestyle longevity, otherwise known as your Playspan, and of course, your clients as well. These are the actions we have in our control that we're already doing. Everybody's eating, right? That's the first thing. So these are the essentials that have to have that we have control over. That allows us to be that self-care person. Nutrition. Obviously, everything starts with nutrition because that's what we're made of. We don't get the right nutrition, we're just not made very well. And bad things happen. We all know that. Just look around you. And then we're talking about a continuous endogenous supply because your nutrition is being used daily and you got to replace it daily, is the basis for everything in humans. So everything else can happen, including dietary support. No one just accidentally gets all the building materials their body can use within an acceptable amount of calories that makes their body as strong as it could be. No one does that just accidentally eating foods, right? So you obviously need dietary support. And that all started from in the womb with prenatal, wiped out over 35% of all major birth defects, a vitamin mineral. Okay, and we got to keep that going. We got to wipe out adult defects. So we need, these are the known gaps here. We're going to look more into that. Exercise, well, certainly that's under our control as well. And of course, that's why that most people are coming to us in the first place. But nutrition is going to make exercise easy and continue the activity, or you're just not going to do it. Weight control, well, nutrition and activity, weight control. So those are all, that is part of our self-care we're handing off to the person. And that allows people to sleep. When you get your nutrition right, exercise, and your weight's under control, you don't have sleep problems, unless you've got something very unusual. And remember, throw genetics out of this because no one's a prisoner of their genes other than very, very small percentage of people, 0.00005% of the population, obviously have something that's totally uncontrollable. But no one's a prisoner of their genes. Starting with nutrition, getting that right, keep moving. I'll give you the weight control. You're going to sleep better. And then, of course, fun and natural stress also, all those things above allow that to happen. So those are things right there. And here's some add-ons. Meditation, finding a way of meditating. Good social support, so important to a nice reducing stress in your life. So those are the extras that are very important. And those are all in our way of passing that on to our clients and to our family members in the communities we serve. And we have that just very simple to do. All right, so let's look at the dietary support. I said we'll talk about this more here. Let's look at that, the dietary support role in this healthy aging, so we can play well and long. Because everything starts with nutrition, and humans have choices. You're never going to get people to eat what you want them to eat. It's just not going to happen. Never has, never will. So therefore, we need to pick up where food leaves off, so no matter what they're eating, before the body breaks. Because inside that food are all the building materials that don't even have calories. So they can grow strong and stay strong within their ideal body. So the problem, the current human health and play span, as we just looked at, is much shorter than our lifespan, obviously. Okay, so why? This little background, everybody, just because people just tend to forget this. The body is developing daily. From the time you're a seed in the womb, it is developing daily by repairing and rebuilding and replacing your trillions of cells using only your daily intake of nutrients to do it. Otherwise, it breaks down its own and tries to put it back, and all you do is shrink and die, obviously. So using the daily nutrients we take in, these are the components that can't be made in the body. All of your vitamins and essential minerals, they cannot be made in the body. They have to come from the outside. Those are the actuators of all human metabolism. You give it less than it can use. This isn't a trick math equation. You get a lesser daily result that silently, you can't hear it. You can't hear your body calling for more vitamin A, more vitamin B, more vitamin D. You can't until you break. So it silently compounds into energy losses. You're just weak. You don't even know what it is. I'm tired all the time. Stress, everyone these days, and premature breakdown or early aging. That's what's going on because you are not putting all those things. Your trillions of cells are constantly replacing themselves and building another cell again with these nutrients. Now, our foods can deliver plenty of calories. No one argues that. But it is the insufficient nutrient content, remember from our previous one there, the actual building materials inside those calories that everyone has from food alone. And is silent. You can't hear them until you break, leading to a lifetime of prescription drug dependency. And there's a great shot here. Those are the gaps, and we're going to blow it up in a minute. But your structure and functional silent hunger throughout life is the down regulation to your essential building material intake, making you a straw structure versus a brick and mortar structure. And the solution? You got to feed the silent hunger, the nutrient gaps, and the rest can happen. Like the prenatal, and as I mentioned earlier, nothing more than a vitamin mineral became mandatory in the 70s. Everyone in American Medical Association, Dietetics Association, Pediatrics Association, everyone in the medical community made it mandatory that you have to prescribe a complete multivitamin to the conceiving mother. Overnight, it wiped out over 35% of major birth defects because of B vitamins missing. You can't trust a mother to eat all the right foods. It's not her fault. They're eating all the right foods to get all the vitamins and minerals to build that perfect, structure there. You're just going to get a weaker one there. So they made it mandatory. And now, by the way, they added the omega-3 to it. So omega-3 to multi is now part of the whole prenatal thing. Within caloric efficiency, how many calories did that take? 0. These building materials, including the known underconsumed, which we had in that picture, we all know what people aren't getting in proper daily amounts to maximize your structure and functional potential throughout a lifetime. In other words, the foundation of your self-care. That's what this is here, feeding the silent hunger. And the positive behavioral cycle starts because it can. So here's where we are today. Everyone, you guys have seen me do this in my lectures before. I've been doing this for 10 years now. But this is where we are today. And I keep adjusting that. If you look at see lifespan, we're down 2 years. For the first time in the history of our species, we're going backwards. We're going backwards. And again, it's all because of obesity, obviously COVID, opioid thing, but big pharma's involved in a huge part of it. That's for sure. But here's where we are today. The lifespan is just pathetic and embarrassing. Health span, that's when we're on medication and everything else, and we're no longer independent. And then play span is when you stop doing the things that you love to do. And that's because the average person is overweight by 35. They don't even want to do what they used to do. And when they try to do it again, they hurt their knee, their back, they're sore all the time. They just become a lot more sedentary. And the reason for this is because, as it says there, the current age here, these are all facts, these are all links are live, guys, is because they're following the recommendations, the dietary guidelines recommendations, or the movement guidelines that we give them. They're following it by about 40%. We've got some of it up to about 45%, but that's where it is there. All right. Now, so here's the thing, what you have to do. We take the gaps that we have from our food over here and everything else. We want to start this self-feeding cycle necessary to play to the end. So here's the formula to move this up. Eat the best you can while always maintaining nutrient recommendations through caloric efficiencies, like we're talking about, or what we call dietary support. Feed the silent hunger, and the rest can happen. Activity, healthy body composition. In other words, the foundation first, or the rest doesn't matter, because without your foundation, you're just going to break down early. So here, this is your projected increase in health and health, play span, and lifespan, and health span and play span, based on the percentage. You listen to us a little more and take a little more, fill your gaps the way we tell you to do it, and that will help you move a little more. But you have to be mindful of this. What drives this percentage in the first place is because they won't be able to or want to follow our recommendations if they don't have the nutrition to do that. And that's the whole idea. It'll be flawed, so they can't get there. So what's driving these things up here like this is the fact that we are immediately filling gaps. So if they live to be 85, and by the way, that star is telling you anybody can live to be 85, you get hooked up to enough machines, but you still got a 64-year-old health span and a play span of 35. You've got family members just hauling you around. But if they live to be 85 and they follow us 50% of the guidelines, look what I just did. 20 years to their play span, 15 years to their health span. Just bumping it up a little bit. 60% if they live to 90, look what I've done. I've taken their play span all the way up to 65, and their health span is pretty much close to their lifespan. If they live to be 95, they're following directions by 75%, and there's nothing there except filling gaps and moving. But you got to fill gaps or you won't move, and I can't drive the percentage up. You're not going to follow it. Look at that. You're pretty much there at that point. And this is where we can all be. We all know humans have the potential to live 100 plus, right? And there's no reason we can't be active. So correcting vitamin, mineral, and omega-3 intake every day to the RDA and the World Health Organization recommendations, starting with the prenatal, would have a long-term cumulative effect. And the earlier you start, the truer the numbers. And we'll take a look at that. So that's what it comes down to, right? That's what we're trying to do. I'm going to bring this back at the very end and show you after we go through a background of this. So what's the foundation to getting your play span to equal our lifespan, like we saw on that top rung there? Basic sports nutrition, which is what we're delivering to our people in the clubs, is now considered the new healthy aging by almost all scientists, because every day of life is only as good as your recovery from the last, just like we tell athletes, right? we've been doing this for years. Is, we train probably more athletes than anybody in the world. We always say an athlete's competitive longevity, so how long they're still competitive and playing their sport and getting those millions of dollars, is predicated on their daily recovery, because their next workout or game day is only as good as recovery from the last. Well, it's the same thing here. The aging population, all of us as adults, all of us as kids, then their next workout or active day is only as good as their recovery from the last. So they can still do these things. I'm not saying they're professional athletes. So here, continue on the foundation of this whole thing here. The problem is, obviously, we already identified it. We live longer, but not necessarily better, obviously. Well, and just a little background here for you, because you got to know this. A lot of people don't know this. And it kind of surprised me a little bit, but I get it. Our predecessors obviously died very young. The average life of a human being was around 20, 19 years old, which is why females, even still today, mince at age 12, because you got to reproduce before you die. And we haven't evolved out of that yet. But all the way up until the last ice age, average life was in the late teens, early 20s. And that's it. So again, you never found out how long a human could live. And it was all basically because we didn't have the nutrition we needed, obviously. You die of either starvation or just you're not getting all the nutrition that creates the human in the first place. So the first thing that started to move the needle over that to get us, to an older age was the discovery of what makes us. Then we would know what foods help put us together. And eventually, not until much later, we found out how much of each one of those things we needed. And then agriculture, so we could grow it, and then we could transport it to different places, and then evolving technologies, and then finally modern medicine, where you could take someone that got a really bad viral infection at age 3, and normally they would have died back in the old days. They can now get past that and live as an adult. And so we really went there. But if you should understand this, though. The average life of some way all the way up to 1930 human being was 47 years. Isn't that crazy? So again, we created a new hurdle by living a little longer. And that is the fact our health span was not getting much better, but we could keep people alive, give them medication, more drugs. And these numbers are just ridiculous. There's 75% again, but 90% of people age 65 are on at least one medication, and they all have at least one chronic disease. That 80%, pretty crazy, huh? So how do we resist this negative health spiral? That's what the bottom line is. And how do we play as we want till the end? Mindful, I already mentioned this. We absolutely are what we eat, but we become what we don't eat. So how do we offset the Western lifestyle, the perfect luck and genes that some of these centenarians, people live to be 100, all that? How do we offset that in the world we live in? Well, the solution, feed the silent hunger before you break. Feed the silent, that's the start. That's the start. Okay, so here we go. Vitamin and minerals are indispensable components of life and health. You don't start life without them, and you certainly don't continue it. They make everything happen. Every system in the human body is vitamin and mineral dependent, and they have to come externally. Get less than the body can use. That's like building a building with less lumber, less steel. Let's just use, let's cut everything in half, like what just happened in Turkey. You cut corners. Get less than the body can use, which is determined as the RDA. I didn't make those up. Great scientists did. Get less structural and functional potential because the body cannot make them. And so here's your holes. This is your silent hunger. This is brand new. These are the gaps from our foods today. And again, this obviously prompted the prenatal. We knew this many years ago, but it's getting worse, not better. Okay, everyone here, if you're not using a complete multivitamin mineral, everyone is in at least 5 to all of these categories. 5 to all of them. So you got a silent problem brewing for sure. And now the other known, these are the primary internets. We talked about 20. And then the other known one is omega-3s. Now that we've realized the importance of omega-3 fatty acids, very rare in the diet because people just stop eating fish for some reason. In fact, over 90% fall short of it. Think of it also as a vitamin mineral. It just has different properties. It's in every cell. It helps cells communicate properly and helps them rebuild and avoid other bad things and help control the immune system, inflammation, and everything else. So this is the other nutrient besides the vitamins and minerals that is known to be underconsumed. We're not worried about proteins so much. We know we need more as we get older, but we're not even worried about, and we're not worried about some other things like bad fats. Everybody gets plenty of those. But the essential fat like this, they're just not. So this is it. So vitamin minerals from food is what the body gets. And the gap is that between that and the RDAs, which is why you could use to maximize short and long-term health. And this is, I talked about today, this is why things are worse. Exacerbating the nutrient gap problems today are human choices. We have more choices, and we're not going to stop. And the American food companies and everything else, they're not going to stop making foods that we really like, and more diets, more fad diets and everything else. So you take the ones that are most popular today. This talks about how they work. Those are the nutrients that are at risk for insufficiency. Not necessarily deficient, like completely. Well, there's some that are completely missing, but most people don't stay in these diets that long. That's the good news. So they have to supplement. I mean, it's more important for these people than almost anybody else when you're on a diet like that. So at the end of the day, telling humans, because we have too many choices, they can get all the vitamins and minerals they need from food alone if they eat properly in an acceptable number of calories. So again, we're talking about 2,000 calories, all the average person burns, can't have 8,000, is a fool's errand. And those are the brand new 2023, 2022 census of what people eat. No one gets the RDA of everything. And particularly in Western societies, has been validated by the fact that it has never worked. And those are all the different studies going back to the beginning, that no one's ever gotten the RDAs from foods. And that includes food fortification. Don't forget, we started fortifying food because people were dying of vitamin deficiency. So we had to go stick vitamin B in bread. We got to put vitamin D in milk. Vitamin D doesn't come in milk. Okay, we started putting it in milk, and the milkman came and dropped it off there. So you're getting a vitamin D supplement in your milk. And even with all of that, we still fall way short of the RDAs. And there's the gap. So what does that mean? The fact that you're living a life like this with these holes, you have a potential silent problem brewing. You're not hearing it yet until you break. That's what's coming up. That's what's happening right here. So let me put this into a picture for you. Let's superimpose all those shortages. Those are the insufficiencies. Remember, insufficiencies. They're not deficiencies. Deficiencies, we would correct. You're better off getting a deficiency. We can find that that becomes overt. You know, you end up with rickets, or you end up something. We can at least stop it from getting any worse by putting in the right vitamin mineral. But the insufficiencies, they're just quiet. You don't know what's happening yet. They're just enough to make you let you move and be who you are, or whatever else, go to work, even go to practice. But you're functioning here because vitamin minerals are actuators of all human metabolism. So you're functioning right in here. So this is the vitamin mineral intake in the US from foods, vitamin minerals right here. Here is the vitamin mineral chart. So when we have 100% of the benefits of vitamin mineral activity here, percentage of vitamin mineral activity right here, we get 100% up here, right? Now we call that the RDA. In here, 60 to 80, let's just say some people are down here with vitamin D, of course, and also zinc and magnesium, they're way down here. They're what we consider nutrients of concern. But let's just average it out. So you're in here. So if they're the actuators of all human metabolism, then that's what you're doing. Your whole, everything, your recovery, everything's at 60 to 85% of what it could be. So your foods give you 60 to 85% of vitamin mineral activity potential. But you're not deficient, because if you're deficient, something bad's going to happen. You get lesions on your skin, but you're not being told. It's quiet. It's an insufficiency. Okay. And then you got your omega-3s there as well. So what does that mean? Here's where you lived without knowing the future. Insufficiencies are silent. Thus, they have an undetectable starting point that begins an insidious progression. And let me give you an example. Kids that don't get enough calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D growing up, they fracture 8 times more than kids that do. And that study just shows it was milk that gave the kids the vitamin D and the calcium, right? And the kids stop drinking milk, they fracture 8 times more than milk drinkers. And it's not milk, it just happens to be carrying those things, the vitamin D that's fortified there, calcium, and then of course things like magnesium in the body can now work better properly because everything's there to help build the bone, and vitamin K as well. So how does that kid know they're going to fracture? They don't know until they fracture. How does someone know they're going to have a cardiac event when they didn't get enough vitamin K? They didn't get enough, of their flavonoids or something early on in life. So the whole cardiovascular system is just weak. And vitamin E, doesn't have enough vitamin E. So you've got plaque building up. All these things are happening, but you don't know it yet until you break, because it's not crying out, you need more vitamin E, you need more of this. It's not doing that. So it's an insidious progression that physically manifests as illness, injury, weight gain, stress, later in life or career, or early aging disorders. because the body is going to naturally triage to favor short-term survival over long-term. Now, what that means is real simple. If you don't get enough calcium in your diet, which is about 1,200 milligrams a day, 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams a day, remember this, all the calcium, 99% of all the calcium in our body is in our bones, and that's what gives the bone the hardness, the structure, and all these different things we have. Only 1% is in the blood. But if that 1% in the blood goes down at all because you didn't eat enough calcium that day, well, guess what's going to happen? Everything would stop. Your heart would stop. You can't contract. Same with magnesium. Your muscles can't contract. Your heart can't beat. You got about 3 minutes to live. So obviously, the body had to figure out a way to fix that. They can't trust you to get your RDA, your vitamin K also, and everything else. So where does it go? Where does it go when it needs it? It triages it. It takes it from the bone because it doesn't care about your long-term health or staving off osteoporosis. It needs to keep you alive. The same thing goes with vitamin K. Vitamin K is involved in our cardiovascular system, our rebuilding of the cells in our brains, and all these things. You end up with early dementia because you didn't get enough, because the vitamin K had to go to blood clotting. All our vitamins and minerals have many different functions in the body, and they'll be robbed of those. And so your body is triaging to keep you alive. And it's a miserable life because you end up on prescription drugs and for the remainder of your life. And by the way, it's pretty hard to go back and fix those things, as we saw early on. So basically, all your structure and functional systems are less than they can be. So what do we do? What's the goal? Correct food and nutrient content to achieve the recommendations, the RDAs. I didn't make those things up, just correct. That's primary number one. Take this person right here and move them to here without adding a single calorie. Maximize vitamin, mineral, omega-3s, and protein activities without adding calories to achieve nutrient-dense calorie efficiency. Right to the middle, and now we've got 100% vitamin mineral activity. At least we have the potential to be the best we can be. So what we accomplished to help play to the end of days here, and by the way, that hot link right there says no one would be immune to the benefits. It talks about people that are healthy, that use them, that benefit from lifetime multivitamin mineral use. Unfortunately, it's the people that need it the most that don't do it at all. And it's so ridiculously cheap, 30 cents a day, really? So the bottom line is the function of a lifelong, inexpensive, low-dose, complete multivitamin mineral, which would have to contain, don't forget it has to contain the known underconsumed, many of them don't, is to offer the potential for vitamin mineral dependent systems to operate at full capacity in the creation and maintenance of human structure, function, health, and recovery, the building materials. Boom. So that's the result. That's what we just did. They'd be able to play till end of days. We accomplished to help play to the end of days. So how do you meet those nutrient recommendations? Talk about cheap, in fact, cost savings. If everybody did this, they'd save money on groceries. Exactly what I'm showing you, not to mention calories. So how to meet the nutrient recommendations with caloric efficiency. You start here. Eat the best you can and always try to eat better. Add nutrient augmentation, feed the silent hunger. We just looked at that. Based on the known shortages, which we all know, everybody knows what they are, with little to no calories. To drive activity, you're not going to be active if you don't do that first. Drive activity and better eating and moving behaviors to support your activity and subsequent healthy body composition in that order. So what do you have to do first? I don't have to beat it up anymore, but I did want to put for all of you here, because you're all part of our groups, you have to supply the 20 known potential, because whenever everybody else shows me a multivitamin, I go, that doesn't have all the known potential underconsumed. So the 20 potential underconsumed in a food correction dose. So you have to assume these people are eating. You don't just throw in a bunch of stuff. So we know what people eat. We know how to add to it to make it work, to work synergistically with foods, filling the unavoidable, unpredictable gaps, to carry on from the prenatal, to maximize all the activities at all stages of life. And it's not optional because they're invisible. They're completely invisible in food. You can't see zinc. Oh, there's zinc in that. Oh, there's my vegetables got zinc. Oh, that's got B6 in it there. I can see it. Oh, that's got magnesium. You can't see that. It's not like a fish on your plate where you can see, or calcium that's on every label now. That's negotiable. And if someone needs calcium, it won't fit in a complete multi anyway, so you got to take it separately. And not everybody needs it. About 75% of the population does. Okay, so there you go. There's what you have it there. So you've got, it's not negotiable to have those, because an orange grown in Florida doesn't have the same nutrient content as an orange grown in California. If it's not in the soil, it's not in the plants, certainly not in what we're eating. So again, you just don't know. You're not going to test your food before you test your food before you consume it after you've cooked it. Not going to happen. So it's not negotiable, and it's ridiculous anyway. It's too cheap to even worry about. And on the rest of it here, calcium, the reason I put it there, it's obviously a mineral. But again, not everybody needs it, but it's such a serious problem now, osteoporosis. And of course, calcium's a bigger driver of that, and vitamin D. And now they have made a law as of last year that calcium content of every food has to be listed on the label. Like we've been doing that for years with our powders. And I fortified our powders with calcium. And then there's your omega. And again, look at your plate. That's negotiable. But if you're not getting 4 servings of fatty fish a week, you're going to need to supplement if you want to offset the deficiency there. And then here's your cost saver. So no calories in those things, hardly any cost there. But your protein, you need 1 gram per pound of lean body mass divided 4 or 5 times a day. You don't have to do that, but at least 1 gram per pound, and just divide it up between your meals, right? That's what you need to do. By adding a protein powder, it's first of all, it's convenient. We know that to get like 50 grams of your protein a day, right? If let's say you need 100, 110, you get half of it done right there. It's just an add to the protein you're eating. So you're eating chicken, fish, beef, whatever, lean beef, whatever you're eating, of soy, whatever you're eating. This is another super high quality, in fact, higher quality than all those protein source to add to your groceries. And now you subtract your groceries. And that saves each person, we've done the math on it, $30 a month. Per person. If you were to incorporate this as part of your protein, and you need to anyway, if you want to recover better, because convenient, causing low calorie, fast acting, food takes 4.5 hours to break down before you get the aminos out of it. So you kind of lose that window of recovery before and after a workout. So before and after workout, this is in your system immediately. So you get that extra recovery to help you stay active longer, because otherwise it just keeps compounding over not recovering as much. And of course, food can't do that. It's comparably completely inefficient in that window. And you can supply all this for obviously less money. So boom, you check those things off and you're good. You're good. And there's a little note down here from George Williams, and I really want to bring it back at the end. It's remarkable that after seemingly miraculous feat of morphogenesis, in other words, the making of the human, that miraculous feat, nobody's even figured out how that's going on, that a complex metazoan like us, right, should be unable to perform the much simpler task of merely maintaining it, what was already formed. I thought that was just brilliant. And I'll kind of bring that back to the end. So let's summarize this stuff. Practitioner summary for you, that future self-care expert, right? A simple, inexpensive addition to our training and coaching that gives the potential to change a person's life, because maximizing energy and fully recovering each day creates the ability and desire to move. It starts the cycle that feeds itself through nutrient-dense caloric efficiency. So here are the 3 actions that we have in our control. Now, this is really the second action, right? Because you got to meet nutrient recommendations first, like in the womb, to be able to be successful to even have activity, right? So I kind of put it like this. But the problem, they're coming to us, and the activity is already solved. They came to us in the gym. So we've already solved that. They're here now, and we can keep them here by now bringing in what they should have been doing their whole lives, feeding the silent hunger by adding a simple dietary support. Fill the known gaps of any acceptable calorie diet to start, the energy to keep it there and keep them active, building a strong foundation leading to what? Maintaining a healthy body weight. The calories with maximum nutrition equals energy, leanness, and addiction to fitness versus big pharma. So, in a nutshell, fulfilling nutrient requirements first leads to activity and a healthy body weight. It creates the structure and functional potential for our playspan to equal our lifespan. So, bottom line is we are now prepared for the future of complete fitness, and we can drive it, including the ability and credentials. Obviously, that's already done. You guys have everything you need right now to be those self-care practitioners. It expands our reach because, selling exercise is a pretty low ceiling all the way around. And, what are you really doing all the way around? So our qualifications are easy. We're already in place. You guys are certified trainers. We've got a very simple nutrition program in our scope of practice, all certified. Everybody's certified by that. So we're good. So you got your certification right there. And I'm always going to bias to NESM, because of course that was my company on that. But anything that's NOCA accredited, you're going to be fine with all of that. So you've got that. And then of course you got there's other extensions we can keep going to get better at it, such as the CNC from NESM or the wellness credentials as well. So everything's in place for us to be that. So imagine this. You ready? Healthcare versus sick care. I always like to tell, remember, it's better and easier to stop something from happening in the first place. Okay, so you can work with my staff now, self-care experts. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's protection. Or you can work their staff later. The protection before drugs with side effects approach. On the right, unfortunately, is the world we live in today, and we can save the world by being on the left. And we have it. We have that ability to do it. So here we are again, right where we started, correcting this. Very simple. The undisputed cornerstones of a long, healthy life, no one argues this, are meeting nutrient recommendations, which drives 2, regular activity, which establishes and maintains 3, healthy body weight, in that order. So there it is, filling those gaps right from the beginning, starting with the prenatal, and boom, that's where we can be. Our playspan can equal our lifespan, and we can help these people play to the end. So if you're a golfer and you live to be 100, you make it on the golf course. Let's say it's Pebble Beach, like one of the best ones in the world. You're on the 18th green. You putt it, it goes in the hole, and you drop dead right there. Perfect life. Or maybe you were a cyclist your whole life. You used to race cycles in your 20s and 30s, and you lived to be 100 or 95. You're still going out in the garage, getting on that bike. You're not riding it like you did when you were 25 or 30, but you can still get on that by yourself. You're not 30 family members hauling you around. You get on the bike, you ride it around the block, you park it in the garage, and you drop dead right there. Perfect. And what if you're a lecturer? That's why I'm a professional athlete before, but now a lecturer. I mean, I want to do this to the end of days. I'll drop dead right there on the stage one day. The thing, as long as I can do all of it right to the end. And we have the power to do that for people. So imagine this, a world of healthcare versus sick care. Imagine a health cabinet versus a medicine cabinet. And the health cabinet's got nothing more than the things we just looked at. That's the prevention side before the drugs with side effects. They can pay really nothing on the left side, very little now, or a whole lot later, and a heck of a lot more than money. That's the dream. That's the final look. And if we get, and we have the power to make that happen. And then antibiotics, the most overused drugs in the world, right? Okay. There's all kinds of things that we can add to our health cabinet to help us to avoid having, well, no one's going to stop you from getting a virus, but how we deal with it after that. Lots of things to keep our immune systems tight on this side before we have to go to that side. What a world that would be, huh? That's how you save the world with fitness. Final takeaway. Feed the silent hunger before you break, and the rest can happen. Because the undisputed cornerstones are what we just talked about. Meeting nutrient recommendations, drives regular activity, all the things we just looked at. So meeting essential nutrient recommendations as soon as possible. You're not going to fix anything at age 65 and you're already broken down, right? Maybe you might stave off the inevitable a little bit, but so as early as soon as possible with caloric efficiency, like we just looked at, will drive better eating and movement behaviors. I used to crack up when people, I mean, dietitians in the old days, and yeah, just saying, I'm just not you, of course, obviously. You know, I don't tell them to take a multivitamin, just they eat right, they can get what they need. Really? Where did that come from? Because that'll make them go ahead and eat lousy. And that's exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Because and when those are studies right there to prove it. They actually drive better eating and movement behaviors by meeting nutrient recommendations, as opposed to big pharma. That's the problem. They allow the bad behaviors. Oh, I'll just go overweight. I'll just eat what I want. Go take a diabetic pill. Yeah, so it's the other way around. And everyone can do this and more through an inexpensive self-care practitioner so that each person can manage their health and create a playspan that has the potential to equal their lifespan. And if we do deliver all this, I think we can have another Alexander Fleming moment. Obviously, when penicillin was invented, everybody thinks the greatest invention in the world, and it was. But it unfortunately pushed things in a different direction there. But that was a watershed event. We went from age 47 average lifetime to 68 almost overnight, because we could cure that disease that babies would get. So all of a sudden we had more people into the longer life. But that was a big day. But bottom line is, meaning the events that happen here would function as a partial vaccine from all the disorders of aging if we did all these things, meeting nutrient requirements, active and all that. That would make that Alexander Fleming magnitude for future generations. And this is the one I wanted to tell you about here. Vitamin RDA for life should help retard normal aging, leading to a longer health span. After all, if vitamin minerals are actuators of all human metabolism and created and maintained human structure in the first place, Why wouldn't the daily recommended load preserve us better than lesser amounts? Certainly all mammals eventually die. We're all going to die. This is me here. There is something interesting about what the evolutionary theorist George William wrote. You ready? This is what I was going to tell you. It's remarkable that after seemingly miraculous feat of the morphogenesis creating us, a complex metazoan would be unable to perform, obviously, the much simpler task of maintaining it. What's already formed. So playing off that, I wrote, well, maybe by maintaining the vitamin mineral RDA, of course, the O3s, throughout life, since vitamin minerals created life in the first place, the organism may slow its inevitable deterioration of functional characteristics, giving it a better chance of at least remaining functional to the end. And there you have it. I put everything back here in your library here. Let's check the time out. Yep, we're there. So this is a library for all of the things that presenting the Playspan to your members. So presenting Playspan to your members, everything is right here. So you got your little one-liners to all the things, again, these are all the things we just talked about. I just put them all in one thing. So if you were going to present something to each person, this is it. Share it on social media, use it to train your staff. Everything is here on one slide. And then here's each one of them broken out separately, your omega-3. So everything you need to know. You guys have already had all this in the lectures we've done, but I just want to put it all in one library for you. So you'd have it all. And there's everything again on one slide for you. And then you got you can package it this way. This is the way we package it here. I'm actually doing it for UFC here in just about 30 minutes. This is their, again, individualized based on gender. This is your Playspan bundle. Kids, women's, over 50, men's. And I put them back here as well. There's the kids Playspan pack, women's. So again, you're individualizing it for them because these things are all direct. There's the vegan Playspan pack. And then here's all your proteins at the end. I just put them in here, library for you and your trainers. So you'd see them. These are we call them Playspan. You call them whatever you want, proteins, regular proteins. But they're all here in the end. And there you have it. We are good to go. Let me open it up, stop sharing here. I know we're at the hour, so sorry about that. I just want to make sure I got everything covered on this one. So open it up. How about in the chat?
Okay, so if you have a question or a takeaway, something that you had an aha moment on, you have a couple options. You can come on screen or I'll come off mute and I'll help you do that, or you can drop it in the chat. And if you have a question, you can drop that in the QA box as well.
And you got the chat now? Do you want to, is there anything?
I got the chat, I got it covered. Okay. Yeah, Zach Luke has said after 25 years of listening to you, he still learned something.
Zach, love you, buddy. Miss you. I haven't seen you in a while.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And I responded, same here. Yeah. It never stops. The learning never stops. Pedro says, loved Feed the Silent Hunger.
Oh, thank you, Pedro. Thank you. I was hoping you'd be in this one because that's the take. Guys, if you have one take home, that's what you want to take home. And Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I got to feed your silent hunger. You're not going to know. And they all know people that break when they get old. And they don't know until they break. So feed the silent hunger. Good. Glad someone got that. Give me another takeaway, somebody. Any more down there in the chat? You got 44 things in there. Is that just
Oh, I've monitored it all. Yeah. I got you covered, Neil.
Thanks.
Yeah, feed the silent. So true,
Yeah.
It's after the fact, it's too late. You've got to be proactive.
Yeah. And other people don't realize you can only build bone up to about age 25. After that, all you do is lose it. Oh. So the more bone you build before age 25, obviously you won't even live long enough to lose it. If you build it all, you can't. And that's going to take vitamin minerals, all the different things at full amount.
Yeah. And I was a dietitian for the top 100 kids for the NBA camps. And, we see that. We see kids that are fracturing in their teens, sad. And it's 100%. And we're talking about non-contact fractures here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Not like they're getting tackled or anything. They're just breaking bones.
They're just jumping up and down and things breaking. Yeah.
So, protein's key for that. It's not just calcium, it's vitamin D, it's all the other cofactors like magnesium and vitamin K.
All of them. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not
they all work together.
Yep. It's not just one thing. And I think that was one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that it did make people pay more attention to nutrition, right? I mean, Yeah. So Carlos is saying, excellent as always. I was doing 6 super mega pills a day and started to feel my mood was down. Okay, hold on. I'm opening up to read the rest.
Yeah.
And wasn't energized. Went to a doctor who told me to reduce it to 1 pill a day since I was overtaking it. Have to say I wasn't training as vigorous. What amount should I take now that I get back to training regularly?
Like you saw in mine, 1 a day is enough for the minimum daily requirement of that. If you're an athlete, many athletes will take 3 to 4 a day to recover. And there's some good evidence on that for recovery from athletes that are stressed. But excuse me, but 1 a day is all, as you saw my thing there, 1, which is about 360 milligrams of EPA and DHA at 240. And that's all anybody needs to really meet the right requirement and everything kind of work normal. If you're stressed out and so forth, then I would add another 1 or 2. I mean, stressed out as far as workload, recover. By the way, omega-3s actually are kind of the other way around. They actually use them for improving behavioral aspects of certainly children.
Yes.
But 6 would be too many, I think, especially if you're getting any other fatty acids along with it.
Cool.
What else we got?
So for those of you who dropped your email in the chat and wanted to get an invitation to the other webinars, I did send that email out. So check your email for those links. Check your junk folder too, just in case it ended up in there. So we're doing some exciting things. Our intro to dotFIT with Neil on the 17th, and then scaling for success with Frank Nash on the 23rd. So if you're just joining and you want to get invited to those and you haven't been, drop your email in the chat and I'll make sure that I send you those links to register.
Great.
Okay, you guys, you got Neil here. You can ask away.
Yeah.
Berlinda's saying
Intro to dotFIT's a must.
a must.
We throw a little half Playspan at the end of it. So
yes, we do.
That's good. Any last things here for anybody? And again, this will be recorded, so we have access to that. But you guys all have all our email, so anytime. We really appreciate everything you're doing out there. Carrying the mission live into your community, and I know you're all making a difference. I know I've seen it happen already. Certainly in my orbit, it's just just great things are happening.
Okay, thanks everyone for being
Thanks
here.
everyone.
Email with the recording link. Have a good March.
You guys have a great weekend. See ya, Pedro.
Bye, Pedro.
Yeah.